Last week, I talked about the original Grandia for PlayStation 1, a game with a fair number of problems, but also a very ambitious game, especially for the time, with a big world and a ton of voice acting. Mechanically, I think the game had a very strong foundation for its combat system, and visually, I think the game has held up beautifully. But today, we'll be talking about the sequel, Grandia 2, which was released for the Sega Dreamcast, as well as later being ported to PlayStation 2 and PC, which the PC port of the game is the one I kind of grew up with. The story was much darker, and the monster designs got amazingly grotesque for such an early 3D game, but there's also the matter of voice acting, and while Grandia 1 had a lot of it, it wasn't very good. So, how about Grandia 2, a game that got its English dub released only about a year after the first one?
I am no longer fooled by your appearance! You are not my brother!
It's a whole hell of a lot better. But we're not here to talk about the history of voice acting in video games today. We're here to talk about difficulty spikes in RPGs that have been on this planet as long as I have. And in today's episode, we have one of the hardest I've faced for this series, and in fact, this was originally planned to be one of the earliest episodes, but things kept happening, so it got delayed, but now we're here. So let's get started with a quote from our favorite man wearing a birdcage over his head. Well, as the host of The Nightmares once said, grant us eyes, grant us eyes. So, for the lead up, a lot of things happen, like our protagonist Ryudo taking odd jobs and being hated by society because he's too blunt or something.
Quit your belly aching and fly, damn it! Whoa!
And yes, that voice you're hearing is in fact Cam Clark, and he's awesome. I might be a little bit biased because he's one of the few voice actors I've met in person. Anyways, we have to make more money from our jobs, so the next people that hire us are the Church of Granus.
It says the Church of Granus wants to hire you as a bodyguard. So, working for Granus, huh? Now I really don't want to do it.
Skipping ahead about 4 hours of cutscenes and early dungeons, we finally have our first real boss fight of the game against the Minotaur, which is kind of a recurring thing in this series now that I think about it, with the help of evil Jodie Benson and a small child that we dragged along on our journey. After we kill the Minotaur, it gets back up, but Millennia one-shots it because she's an aspect of an ancient demon possessing the priestess that we're supposed to be protecting. Think of her sort of like Greed from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, where she starts out as a bad guy but ultimately turns good by the time the game's story ends because her vessel is just that damn much of a good person. And also, outside influence, I guess. Skipping ahead even more, we reach a town where everyone has lost their sense of taste, and we learn that the mayor of the town, Dagon, became a vessel for the Tongue of Valmar, much like how Elena is a vessel for the Wings. However, while Millennia essentially is just a grown woman with serious anger issues and a brutal approach to dealing with enemies, Dagon is a monstrosity that's more mouth than person.
Ah, crap, we got demons.
Where does all that extra mass come from anyways? You know what, if I don't question it in Resident Evil, I'm not going to question it in Grandia 2. Anyways, he can definitely be a lot tougher than your early game battles, especially with 4 different body parts, but with everything clumped together, AoE attacks do a pretty good job hitting all of his body, and you just got a bunch of really powerful equipment on Millennia for free, on top of him being very easy to shut down with the likes of, well, the sleep status effect. It's very good in this game. After we kill the boss, Millennia takes a sledgehammer to the problem by devouring the Tongue of Valmar, taking its powers as they're all at war with each other, but since Dagon was so far gone, he's become a lifeless husk. Rest in piss, Burger Man, you will not be missed. So we take the Sky Rail to head to the Church of Granus, think of it sort of like the Vatican City, and Elena is having a crisis because she doesn't know anything that happened while Millennia was in control. Of course, this being a JRPG, we can never have public transportation go smoothly for us, and we'll be required to take an extremely long detour.
Darkness! Darkness is coming! It's calling me! Darkness is calling me!
Elena!
Oh.
Of course things go horribly wrong. Were you expecting the trip to be simple? But I will say, this does lead to one of my favorite scenes in the entire game, where Elena and Millennia finally have their first face-to-face conversation.
Elena! Elena!
Wake up!
Millennia is far and away my favorite character in the game, and Jodie Benson is pulling some heavy weight for that. I've got a soft spot for her character that goes from chaotic evil to chaotic good throughout the game's runtime, and yeah, she's awesome.
You really are completely nuts. Woo! You better reel yourself in, you psycho!
We're gonna skip ahead a few more hours because we're now in a dungeon known as Iris Space, which is this sort of non-Euclidean nightmare zone where nothing makes sense and the vessel of Valmar's Eye is a little girl. This does lead to bigger complications because we need to stop the issue, but everything is pointing to killing a 6-year-old child with an ill mother. Millennia mentions the most efficient method is to just take out the little kid, but we're JRPG heroes, so we're idealists, not realists. Regardless of what we may desire, though, a boss fight is on, and it's time for the subject of today's video, Valmar's Eye. Or maybe in this case, I should say eyes because there's a whole heck of a lot of them. Okay, so I know the boss we're fighting is a giant eyeball, but I just want to say, ow my ears. So in Grandia 2, enemies make sound effects, but in some cases they'll overlap, and when there's 7 different targets in the arena, the boss fight can often sound like this for half the battle. Thankfully, in the remaster, the sound effects stop when you're selecting battle commands. Not so thankfully, this is quite possibly the hardest boss in the game, and we're not even a quarter of the way through it. But what makes this fight so hard anyways?
Everything.
Okay, to be more specific, let's first look at the raw numbers on display. Most bosses have a single body that acts. Valmar's tongue had 4 body parts, with 2 claws, a mouth, and a body, but the body wouldn't begin acting until either at low HP or after its other body parts were destroyed, and they were all clumped together, making it easy to hit with AoE attacks. On the other hand, Valmar's Eye has 7 body parts all acting at once independently. And to go even further, 4 eyeball drones that all have 3000 HP and a team attack called Delta Burst, which does high damage and cancels any action being taken, and since every drone can trigger it on its own, that means you can have this attack spammed 4 times in a row, effectively stun-locking 2 of your party members to death if it decides to be really fucking mean. There's also 2 tendrils that are attached to Valmar's Eye that each have 6000 HP and will smack you in the face, and their attacks can hit multiple people at once if they're close to one another. It's probably their least dangerous attack, but it's still a thing that can come out pretty quickly and be dangerous. Each tendril is also capable of casting party-wide buffs, as well as the abilities Seed of Sleep that they can use for a small AoE explosion, which does small damage but also puts the target to sleep and anyone nearby, and you don't have a lot of status defense this early in the game, thanks for asking, and it has a higher powered AoE called Seed of Poison. 0 points for guessing what that one does. The main body has a skill known as Spellbinding Eye that it can cast, making a party member unable to act for a very long time and take chip damage. The skill is so overpowered it stunlocks the true final boss and you have no way to negate it. You're dealing with it 10 hours into a 45-hour RPG, and just for reference, the main body has its enemy HP displayed up to 9,999. This boss's HP is a bunch of question marks because it's the first boss with a 5-digit HP bar. That's more than the final boss of Grandia 1. On top of that, the drones can attack you quickly and stun you at points. They move so fast they can dodge irregular attacks. The tendrils can cast All Heal to restore the body's HP because that's exactly what this boss needs, and Valmar's Eye has another attack called Pollen Spew that hits in a fan in front of it for a whole hell of a lot of damage, while also being able to inflict poison, but far more likely inflict confuse on your party members. And remember, you're getting attacked by 7 different enemies every single turn, and you don't have the best options for healing or recoveries because Elena isn't in your party since Millennia is running the show for this story segment. On top of that, you couldn't exactly do a ton with magic anyways, since magic requires equipping a mana egg to a party member, and you only have 3 of those by this point in the game, so someone's being stuck without magic for this fight. Probably Merrick because Lion Man likes to unga and bunga his way through the battle. Oh, and another mechanic is that Grandia 2's early game. See, Millennia has a rage meter, as seen by the color swirling around her portrait. where she will get more and more pissed off as the fight goes on. If it fills up, she's going to stop following orders and just spam attacks with reckless abandon. And admittedly, these are some downright deadly attacks. But this also means she's not going to cooperate at all, waste all of her MP and SP, and on rare occasions she might even damage your party members in the crossfire. Normally this mechanic isn't an issue and stops happening halfway through the game as she learns how to chill the hell out. But in this one fight, it can lead to things quickly spiraling out of control. So how, in the ever-loving Christ, are we supposed to beat this damn boss?
What do I do, Lord? Destroy the child.
Something preparation, something how to win. Okay, in terms of your levels, you're going to be around the low to mid 20s no matter what you do, and your gear should obviously be the best stuff you can find. What really matters though are skills and magic. Looking into, well, get some good support magic on your characters because buffs and debuffs are universal and healing is always nice, but I recommend giving Millennia the Chaos Egg so she can make use of powerful offensive spells. The Mist Egg works well enough on Rowan for buffs, and the Holy Egg can help keep Ryudo safe and do some healing because he'll probably be the last character alive in a lot of cases. What matters more are these special coins which allow you to power up their physical skills, or also their magic skills. I recommend above all else trying to max out Ryudo's Tenseiken Slash as fast as possible because it has the ability to cancel enemy attacks, and the higher level of skill, not only does it do more damage, but it has a shorter charge time. And let's just say if you have it at max level, it's brought down from multiple seconds to 2 frames, and that will make a huge difference. Fuck variety and diversifying your portfolio, go all in on black, essentially. Otherwise, look at whatever status defense gear you may have, because the boss uses a lot of sleep, poison, and confusion. You won't be able to stop much of it, but if we can mitigate even a little bit, that will help significantly. Sadly for us, there's no stopping the Spellbinding Eye, so the last bit of preparation is to find God and pray, because this is one of the absolute hardest bosses I've faced for this series, and honestly, maybe one of the hardest bosses I've faced in a video game? I don't know, it's pretty high up there. So now it's time to destroy the child, and we need to be on top of things, because the start of the fight is the most relentless, as you'll quickly be facing down 7 different attacks. The most important step above all else is to pick an enemy drone you want to destroy and prioritize taking it out above anything else. There need to be 4 drones active to utilize Delta Burst, so without that, the most dangerous of the attack that the drones can utilize is gone, and they'll only be able to perform basic attacks after that point. Don't think about anything else, just spam one of the eyes down, and maybe have Rowan using this as a chance to buff the party and debuff opponents. However, whenever Ryudo's turn comes around, hold off on your spamming and check all of the enemies, as you'll be able to see whatever moves they're currently preparing. If it's just standard attacks, keep hitting away at the eye, but if Valmar's eye is preparing Pollen Spew, then hit it with a Tenseiken Slash immediately. We cannot afford to have half of our party get confused this early on. That is an immediate death sentence in the fight. After one of the eye drones is down, we can take a breath. The fight will still be absurdly difficult, but now the battle won't come down to pure luck. From here on, you need to play things a bit by ear, deciding whether you want to do more spread damage, nuking the field, or try to tear away at some of the enemies and, knock out more enemies quicker. I'd say stick more to spread damage early on when setting up some buffs, and preferably use things like Zap from Millennia because it can paralyze enemies on occasion, and if you paralyze a part of Valmar's eye, that will help a ton. But once you feel comfortable, start taking out all of the eyes to reduce the chance of any inopportune counter hits, as they can perform attacks against you very quickly, and once all the eye drones are down, it stops the ear-grating buzzing noise they make. But keep an eye on the different body parts of Valmar, because Poison Spew and Seed of Sleep are still attacks you don't want to see under any circumstances. Seed of Poison is also dangerous, while Crackle can do very high damage to a single target. Though, I don't know why Crackle is an ice element attack and not electricity. That's just weird naming on the devs part, I guess. Now, if a party member's health ever drops below 400, prioritize healing them up as soon as possible. This boss can hit upwards of 600 HP, but we can only do so much with our limited amount of healing items at this point. Preferably keep a Yomi's Elixir on each party member as well, since we want to make sure we can revive fallen teammates to full health, and you probably won't have any revival spells yet. Multi-healing items are also quite good. Unfortunately, due to how many attacks this boss can throw out quickly, you're still going to be eating shit quite often in this fight. So at a certain point, the battle becomes less about performing well and more about mitigating the damages, because this boss can combo her attacks in a way that it takes you from full health to death in some cases. Rowan will most likely be on buffing and support duty with healing items and the occasional golden hammer to stop an attack. Ryudo and Millennia should focus primarily on dealing damage, and Merrick can do its best for whatever that's worth. Maybe he'll soak up some damage for his team, or get some Beast Fang cuts off against the limbs at a good moment. Now, I'll say this, Merrick's not bad, he's just probably the guy stuck without a mana egg, so he's limited at this point in the game. If you're really lucky, Millennia will lose her shit after at least one of the eyeballs has been killed, and it'll be when she decides to just start nuking the field with things like Fallen Wings or Zap. And if so, that's actually going to be doing a lot of magic damage to everything on the field, and that will help out a lot, but don't rely on it. Now, to be fair, you can kill the main body much like in Fear and Hunger, and just take out the boss quicker, but that's a horrendous idea in practice, because not only will everything else prioritize keeping it alive, and not only does the main body have over 10,000 HP, which is higher than the final boss of Grandia 1 by the way, but you need to kill both the tendrils to unlock your 4th mana egg, and as established earlier, those are very important for letting your party members learn magic, and there's also another 35 hours or so of game after this boss fight is done. Honestly, even when all the drones are dead and the tendrils are gone, this fight still isn't free, as Crackle does heavy damage, Pollen Spew is a nightmare of an attack to deal with, and Spellbinding Eye cannot be resisted or negated in any way when used, so the party member is effectively out of a fight for a good while when it's performed. And unlike the Squid King from last week's episode, Valmar's Eye has a ton of HP, so bullying it to death with stun locking isn't very likely. Just play it safe and heal party members up if it seems close, and make sure above all else that at least 3 party members are currently alive, so no unforeseen circumstances can go wrong and screw you over. Even with near perfect preparation, this fight will likely take multiple attempts, because this is genuinely one of the most difficult bosses I've faced in a video game. But thankfully, it can die once you put out enough offense on your end. When the fight is over, Millennia goes in, planning to take care of Valmar's Eye, which would likely kill Ira in the process. Everyone hates that this had to happen, but luckily Millennia stopped being evil and decided to use a scalpel instead of a sledgehammer, and also decides to embrace the art of rage baiting by motivating Sandra with the power of spite as a way to save her daughter and bring her back at some point in the future. It's as they say, the strongest motivation on the planet, it's not love, it's spite. And that's going to do it for this video. Grandia 2 is an excellent RPG that has more than withstood the test of time, and I can recommend playing it. The story is great, it takes itself seriously, characters are very well developed, helped out by some amazing voice acting that still holds up to this day. The gameplay is a fair bit of fun, and the low poly grotesque monstrosities make for a very memorable visual identity for the game. I highly recommend it, and it's actually very easy to get your hands on, being on basically every modern system as well as Steam. But that's all I've got for now. If you enjoyed and want to see more content of varying quality, consider liking, subscribing, and hyping the video. I'm getting very close to 10,000 subscribers, so the goal is to try and reach that soon. Otherwise, I'll see you all next Friday. Because in the next episode of Worst Difficulty Spikes, rinse due.